What is up, everybody? I am super excited to share with you this build that I've been working on. I had this idea today playing with my friend and didn't think it was going to be possible, but I made it work and it is so fucking amazing. It's my favorite build I've done so far. It was very difficult, but it's worth the effort. And you can kind of half-ass it and just work towards it. This is a World Tier 5 build, but the gear score isn't super high. I'm only 460 gear score, so don't let that fool you. Gear score isn't as important as you think. It increases the base armor values of your gear and the base weapon damage numbers of your guns. So your primary gun you want to make sure is high gear score. But don't be wearing high gear score stuff just because it's high gear score. Make sure you're in really good gear and just gradually upgrade it as you get replacement parts. Like, I haven't even upgraded my chatterbox. It's gear score 440. It doesn't even matter. I don't shoot this thing. This isn't Destiny. Gear score doesn't affect your damage. All right, let's get on to the build. This is an assault rifle build that just absolutely shreds in PvE and I'm sure PvP. I haven't used it in PvP yet, but you just got to replace some of the damage to elites with, I guess, more survivability stuff, and it's going to be just absolutely dominating. I have a total of 121.5% weapon damage and 74% damage to elites, so a total of 195.5 bonus damage to elites on this build. I'm going to go through it all. First, I'll start with the gun. Right now, I'm using a Police M4. This happened to drop for me, and it's really great. Allegro. I think best in slot talent for this is Optimist. It's actually really, really good. Weapon damage is increased by 3% for every 10% ammo missing from the magazine. This does not go up in 10% increments. Every bullet increases in damage. It ends up doing, I had a buddy do the math, and you get over 16% damage increase throughout your magazine, total. Almost 17, I believe, for a 40-round mag. So it's a great talent. If you're not running a crit chance build, this is the talent to go with. Keep in mind, this build here is 0 crit. We have 3 reds, 7 blues, and 7 yellows. This was very hard to balance, so it might take you guys a little bit of time to be able to pull this off, but it is totally worth it. This thing also rolled protected reload, which is one of my favorites, if not my favorite bottom slot talent. And my next favorite is stop, drop, and roll. Really important when you get put on burn or bleed or whatever. You just do a combat roll and you're good to go. So those two combined are great. I'm running this with the chatterbox for blabbermouth on the bottom talent. After you kill someone, 5 seconds after you have 5 seconds to reload, and then you have a 20% rate of fire for 10 seconds. The rate of fire is just absolutely crazy with this Police M4, and the gun is a laser beam. I'm not running sharpshooter anymore, but as you can see, this thing, its accuracy is just crazy. Its rate of fire is crazy, and when chatterbox goes off, it's amazing. I love it. Really, really love this gun. This works with any assault rifle. You could use a hard hitter. You could use a fast one. You could use whatever. But I'm going to show you the important talents. Keep in mind, you want to not go any higher than 3 firearms. You got to have 7 blues, and you got to have 7 yellows. You can go higher than 7 blues or 7 yellows, but it's very important. So first off, we're going to start with the backpack. The basis of a lot of my damage is on the ropes. Safeguard got a nerf. It's 20 seconds up and then 20 seconds down until you can pop it again. It's not very good anymore. So I tried this out on the ropes, and it's amazing. Weapon damage is increased by 25% while all skills are on cooldown. It requires 7 or more, and mine has damage to elites on it. This chest doesn't look very good, but it's actually pretty awesome. It's got 2 blues. Actually, I take that back. 3 blues and 2 yellows total. So we've got a blue mod, a yellow mod, and then 2 blues. So this is a great backpack. A lot of people would throw this away, but luckily I didn't. I bet if it wasn't a high gear score, I would have thrown it away, but it worked out really good that I kept this. On the ropes gives some serious damage, and it turns out, it didn't used to be like this, but after you pop, I'll show you my skills later. I use one of these pulses, it's instant. You don't have the buff yet, but when you use 1 heal, a charge, boom, I got it. the little boxing glove on the rope, it makes your damage just skyrocket. It is amazing. So all you got to do is pop your skill and then pop your heal, and it's up. You might want to pop a couple heals. I have increased charges on mine. I have 5 charges total right now, but you can pop a couple and keep it up longer, because if you let that heal fully recharge to your max charges, you will lose your damage increase. So I'll go over the skills after we finish with the gear. The next thing that's really important is these gloves. Compensated talent. Weapon damage is increased by 15% when your critical chance is below 20%. This is a great talent for non-crit builds. You can put crit on your build, but there's not much benefit. If you're not running strained, I don't even think crit's worth it. If you're not running a crit heal build, I don't think it's worth it. So we're going pure raw damage, and this talent is great. Hardest part about it is you need 3 or less firearms. I have mine modified for assault rifle damage, and it's a single attribute, so it's real high Araldi holdings. Doesn't need to be Araldi, but this one's real nice. Next, we're going to go over the chest piece. This is another real nice chest that I have. It rolled super high weapon damage. This is where I recommend putting weapon damage, your chest, and unstoppable force. For PvP, I think I would run this with Berserk, but for PvE, unstoppable force is where it's at. Killing an enemy grants 2% weapon damage for every 10,000 max armor. I've got 160,000 armor, so I'm getting 32% weapon damage, and this lasts 10 seconds. Every time I kill an enemy, 32% weapon damage. And it's really awesome. This chest ended up being real nice for me because it's got 1 red. With mods, it's got 2 yellows and 2 blues. So keep your eye out for something like this. Alp Summit only rolls 2 attributes, so you can get that super high weapon damage roll. And some people might throw this away because it doesn't look amazing, but this is actually a great chest. And I could always change Unstoppable Force if I wanted to Berserk or something like that. But right now, I'm keeping it unstoppable. Now, let's see. Next, knee pads. It's important to have 1 piece of Fenris in here. And I spent a couple hours trying to get this build to work with all of my my gear stash, because I'm a loot whore, going through my mules, finding stuff, and I finally got it to work. And then I first got it to work, and I didn't have a Fenris piece, I realized. And I'm like, shit. And I ended up finding this. This is not the greatest piece, but it has the yellow. It's got patience, which I think is really important in this build. Even without safeguard, patience gives you a nice amount of heal. And I'm not sure if, because I'm running survivalist, my patience is giving me more increase, but I feel like it is. I feel like it says outgoing healing 15%, but I honestly feel like my healing is buffed. Maybe it's outgoing, but it's also incoming to me. I'm not sure. I may be wrong, but it sure feels like my patience is stronger than normal with not running safeguard. You don't need patience, but I recommend it. This, for PvE, would be best to be damage to elites if you're running these Fenris knee pads. And they're kind of up to you, whatever you feel like putting on there. Holster, this is like a really shitty piece of gear. I actually crafted this because I didn't actually have a holster with 2 yellows and a blue, and I needed it. This was the final piece of gear. I was trying to balance between my holster, my knee pads, and my mask. And I actually went with a Hail Mary and tried crafting a random holster. And this crafted. And I was so lucky and so happy. I just got really, really lucky getting the 2 yellow, 1 blue holster. It doesn't have an attribute or a talent, but that's okay. At least my mask, which I'm going to show you next, let me add all of this elite damage. I could have done this build a lot simpler if I didn't have so much elite damage, but with World Tier 5, heroic difficulties, the invaded missions, there is a lot of elites now. They didn't used to have a lot of elites in them. Now there is just so many. So elite damage is actually pretty important if you're doing PvE now, whereas before there was only a few. This thing's got 31% damage to elites and hard hitting, so 46% damage to elites on it. You can see why I wanted to incorporate this in my build. If this was a PvP build, I would run no reds on the mask, and I would go with a backpack that has weapon damage. Something like this right here. High weapon damage, high health or armor, either vital or hardened, and then the, on the ropes instead. But since it's PvE focused right now, there you go, damage to elites. 45% damage to elites is a lot better than 5.5 weapon damage if you're doing PvE. But PvP, you can change this out. Really simple. Now, if you're struggling with this build, which I think most people will struggle trying to get a 377 build, keep your eye out for these new sets. The ongoing directive seems to have a high chance of rolling a lot of yellows. Look at this. This is a 3 yellow mask. So this is perfect to make up for some of those yellows that you might not have. Sure, you don't get any good talents or other good attributes, but it can be worth it to try to unlock on the ropes for that 25% damage. So keep an eye out for that. This would be a great placeholder while you're trying to build your set. And don't wear things just because they're high gear score. You can use whatever gear score. You could even get something that's for sale at a vendor that's low gear score, like in the low 400s or even 300s. The only thing you're going to be missing out on is a little bit of base armor. It's not that bad. Same thing goes with holster. I actually found an ongoing directive holster. And look at this. Unfortunately, it rolled a red, so it would have, broke the build. But it did roll 3 yellow attributes. 1 for the skill power and then 2 utility mod slots. So those 2 pieces alone would have been 6 of the 7 required electronics that you need or yellow stuff. Now, as far as talents go, it's kind of important to choose talents that are easy to pop on cooldown. I swear before the patch that Chem Launcher did not used to trigger on the ropes unless it was fully depleted. I may be mistaken, but I swear I tried it and it didn't, and I was pretty upset. So when I was doing this build, originally I wasn't using Chem Launcher, and it was really tough not having a heal, but Chem Launcher actually works. Let me just show you. So when I shoot this guy, 48,000 damage. Now, if I pop my one skill, still don't have on the ropes, but now we do. We pop the heal, we got on the ropes. And now it's 56,000 damage. 57,000. Each shot it's going up. 57.9. Hitting a body shot. 58. So Optimus you can see is going up. But that's some huge extra damage. Be careful though, because Chem Launcher has a very quick cooldown. I don't have the benefit anymore. So my damage is back to, the 50s. And then if I pop a Chem Launcher, we're back to the 60s. So we got a really big damage increase there. You might want to pop a Chem Launcher a couple of times in the beginning of a fight, throw a couple down, and that way you have a much longer time for them to regenerate, and they won't actually kill you on the ropes until they're fully charged. So you may have with this build a lot of skill power. I had more than I've ever had before, so I went in and selected my mods, and I actually had one that gave me some extra ammo. If I had just a tiny bit more skill power, I would be able to wear this thing. Actually, no, I'd need more. But you can get even more ammo, which isn't necessary, but you could potentially pop a few of them down and be able to keep your buff up a lot longer without having to deal with it. But look at your mods that you might have, because you probably have some skill power in this build, unless you just went all cooldown reduction, which wouldn't be the greatest idea, and you could potentially wear these. I almost have enough for this 35% better heal, which would be really nice, but 5 charges is also good. Now the other skill I use is actually a pulse, and it is called Jammer. Normally I would never use this. It's kind of cool. You can charge it up to get a wider radius, and it disrupts and blows up like any like skills that are out there. So you can hold it or just tap it. I like to just tap it. You just hit the button once, and it's instantly on cooldown. You hit your heal, you're on cooldown, and you're good to go. As you can see, I'm hitting really, really hard now, and this thing just melts. Once you get the chatterbox, it's absolutely destroying these targets. Keep in mind the damages that you're seeing are quite a bit lower than what you're going to see when you're playing against the NPCs, because this does not work. Unstoppable Force does not work in here, so we're missing out on a bunch of damage. I'm seeing in the high 90s, over 100,000 damage with this build, potentially, with the gear that I have right now. And that's pretty crazy for damage to elites. To purples, it's quite a bit lower because, you know, missing out on 75%. But let me show you my stats. We are sitting on, let's see here, 55% headshot damage. We've got 13.5 all weapon damage, which is actually more than that because the gloves that give you 15% weapon damage don't show up on your sheet. They do not, but they do reflect the damage. You'll see if you take your gloves off, you're going to be doing less damage. But so we could add another 15 here. So then we've got 13 all weapon, 36 assault rifle damage, and 74% damage to elites. When you factor in the on the ropes for 25% more damage, and then you factor in the unstoppable force, which I only have 160k armor, which is pretty low and shitty. Potentially this will be, you know, more than 200,000 armor is what I plan to have this optimized at. Then you'll be getting 40% damage, but I'm getting 32%. It's really easy to figure out how much you get. Just take how much armor you have, 160, call it 16, times it by 2, and that's how much percent damage you get from unstoppable force for 10 seconds after killing an enemy. It doesn't refresh, so when it drops, you got to kill another enemy. Another thing that I have on this build that doesn't show it in the stats is protection from elites. 15 of that comes from the specialist ability. Let me show you here. For the first time in my life, I'm running survivalist. It's giving me 15% increased assault rifle damage. And the other thing that's really nice is 15% increased protection from elites. This is actually really noticeable in the challenging and heroic difficulty world tier 5s. It's a big difference. It's a lot more of a difference than adding some armor or whatever. They've got some other talents. 15% increased outgoing healing. I swear that this actually increases the healing that I'm receiving. It might not. I'm not sure. I mean, it'd technically be incoming, but I mean, you let it go outgoing and now it's incoming. So I feel like it is, but maybe it's not. I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can let me know. But it doesn't really have anything else that's really good here. You can, group members get 10% bonus damage to targets with status effects. That's kind of cool. I'm in a group, so maybe that works for me. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not certain. I'm really unfamiliar with survivalists, so I don't know all of the weird little things about it. I haven't used it in conflict yet, so I haven't put my points in, and I don't want cooldown reduction. So it's got some other talents. You can spec into them if you want, or leave them blank if you want. You don't need that many points into your specialist to make it good. But on top of that 15% damage reduction from elites, I've also got skill mods with protection from elites. This one here has 5%, and then this one here, I believe, has 4%. Yeah, so another 4%. So we're actually running 24% damage reduction from elites, and that is really noticeable. I notice it tremendous amounts from the elites. It's crazy how big of a difference it makes. So look through your mods, see if you've got those. Highly recommend it. And a lot of times in my videos I forget to show how I modded my gun. For PvE, I'm running damage to elites on the muzzle. Our crit chance scope got nerfed and changed into damage to elites, so I'm running that on the scope. The underbarrel, this gun has really good accuracy already, and it needed a little bit of stability since I'm not running sharpshooter. I noticed more of a difference in the stability than the accuracy. It depends on your gun. Even though my stability is super cranked up high on this gun, it still seemed to benefit more from the stability grip than the accuracy grip. And then I'm just running the new nerfed magazine, plus 10 rounds. I don't have the sturdy one yet, which gives you plus 20 rounds. It's kind of rigged and time-gated behind weekly projects that are then RNG-based, so hopefully we get it. But, yep, I think I covered everything. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments below. Don't forget to follow, check out my other builds, and you can watch me live, Twitch TV /Inigo Montoya. Thank you guys so much for watching.